कीरयेत् भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we're going to chapter 6. The Yadu dynasty retires to Prabhas. Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atha Brahmatma Jayadeve Prajeshe Ravrito Bhyagat Bhavascha Bhuta Bhavyesho Yaya Bhuta Ganer Vritaha. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Lord Brahma then set off for Dwaraka accompanied by his own sons as well as by the demigods and the great Prajapatis. Lord Shiva, the bestower of auspiciousness to all living beings, also went, surrounded by many ghostly creatures. Text 2 to 4. So who all went? There's a big list. Powerful Lord Indra, along with Maruts, Adityas, Vasus, Ashwinis, Ribus, Angiras, Rudras, Vishwadevas, Sadyas, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Shanas, Goyakas, the great sages and forefathers and the Vidyadharas and Kinnaras arrived at the city of Dwarka hoping to see Lord Krishna. By his transcendental form, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, enchanted all human beings and spread his own fame throughout the worlds. The Lord's glories destroy all contamination within the universe. Sarvaloka mala apaham. So the glories of the Lord. Bhagavan Naraloka Manaramaha. So the glories of the Lord, Yasha, glories of the Lord are Manarama, enchanting to the mind and purifying all the impurities. So all these people went to see the Lord in Dwarka. Text 5. In that resplendent city of Dwarka, rich with all superior opulences, demigods beheld with unsatiated eyes the wonderful form of Sri Krishna. Text 6. The demigods covered the Supreme Lord of the universe with flower garlands brought from the gardens of heaven. Then they praised him, the best of the Yadu dynasty, with statements containing charming words and ideas. Special flowers from Swargaloka. Okay, so now series of prayers from verse number 7 to 19. So this whole section is various prayers which the Devatas are offering to the Supreme Lord. Shri Deva Uchu Natasmate Natapadaravindam Buddhindriya Prana Mano Vachobi Yachintyate Antaridhi Bhavayukter Mumukshubi Karma Mayorubhashat. Read.
The demigods began to speak. Our dear Lord, advanced mystic yogis, striving for liberation from the severe bondage of material work, meditate with great devotion upon your lotus feet within their hearts, dedicating our intelligence, senses, vital air, mind, and power of speech. We demigods bow down at your lotus feet.
Natha, Nathasma, bow down, Natha. Nathapadarvindam. So they're offering their buddhi, indriya, prana, mana, vachobi, everything they're offering to the Supreme Lord, meditating antaridhi in their hearts. So here, purport, according to Srila Sridhar Swami, the word sma in this verse indicates vismay, astonishment. Natha sma. So why they're astonished? The demigods were astonished that although great mystic yogis are only able to contemplate the lotus feet of the Lord within their hearts, the demigods arriving in the city of Dwarka were able to see before them the entire body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were able to have darshan. Therefore, the powerful demigods fell down like sticks before the Lord. Such full obeisances called dandavat, like a stick, are described as follows. Dorbhyam, padabhyam, janubhyam, urasa, shirasa, drisha, manasa, vachasa, cheti, pranamo, ashtanga irita. Ashtanga, what is this Ashtanga? I ask in so many classes. We studied in Vaishnava etiquettes, right? Some few decades back. Mostly everyone forget. Some of this purport is reminding us. What are those Ashtanga? So what are the Ashtanga? 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 knees, chest, head, eyes, mind, and power of speech. So therefore, it is not only just mechanical sleeping. Exercise. So it is not only just like that. So also one has to engage mind and speech. So that means one must be conscious to whom one is offering obeisances. And at the same time, one must glorify pranam mantra, offer some prayers. So pranam mantra basically. So it should not be simply mechanical. So mind and speech also have to be engaged. Then we're conscious of offering obeisances. So it should not simply become mechanical. Huh? Eyes, darshan. Now you have darshan and then pay obeisances. Now you should know to whom you are paying obeisance. हाँ, लेकिन करते समय हम देखते हैं ना, किसको कर रहे हैं वो देखना चाहिए ना. I don't know, somewhere it happened, somewhere, sometime. So they had removed Prabhupada's DT for some function, and people are offering obeisances. And no one is there. तो देखना चाहिए ना, अगर व्यक्ति है तो फिर दंड. So therefore, it's not only mechanical. So in spirituality, nothing is simply ritual. Everything is spiritual. So one must understand the purpose behind what one is doing. So Srila Prabhupada was once taking massage. You know, there was a system during Srila Prabhupada's massage. What would happen? So the secretary would come and read letters, and Srila Prabhupada would give answers to those letters. So that would be the normal system. So that particular day also same thing was happening. So there was this one secretary who did not bring all the letters at the same time. So he was bringing one letter, offered obeisances, then read the letter, Prabhupada dictated. He went. Then he came with another letter. Then again same thing. Like that was happening. 5-6 times it happened. Then Srila Prabhupada said, what is this hatchet obeisances? You know hatchet? क्या है hatchet क्या है? Kuladi, axe. What is this hatchet obeisances? Huh? See, he was offering obeisances, that is okay. But the point is, Srila Prabhupada was saying that is offering the obeisances simply mechanically. Now, how he offered, I don't know. लेकिन पहली बार दर्शन तो हो रहा है. So Shrutikirti Prabhu tells this pastime because Shrutikirti Prabhu was doing massage, so he was seeing this. So, but what Srila Prabhupada was seeing is, he was not seeing just the external act of obeisances, he was seeing the inner attitude and mentality with which he was offering obeisance. So his offering obeisances was mechanical. That Srila Prabhupada could understand. And what was the result? The result was, after a few days, months, whatever, this devotee left. So Srila Prabhupada, he could detect this person, he doesn't have actual respect, he's only mechanically offering obeisances. So therefore, nothing should be done mechanically. One should be mindful of what one is doing. So, mind. And of course, in the 4th canto, in the Daksha pastime, we read, there's one entire purport where Srila Prabhupada is explaining. So when we offer obeisances to any person, then we're actually offering obeisances to, yes, the super soul within the body. And so therefore, sometimes we may think, oh, I don't like this person so much, why should I offer obeisance? No, even whether you like the person or not, but we're actually offering obeisances to the super soul within. And so therefore, the correct attitude and this is very important. So why is everyone migrating to that side? Oh, अच्छा ऐसा है क्या? हाँ. Batteries are weak. When things get old, then everything becomes weak. There's an inner meaning to it. So, the simple act of offering respect, obeisances can have such a profound effect. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the first canto, he writes, by the simple act of offering obeisance, the context is when all the sages came, Parishit Maharaj offered obeisances to all the sages who came. So in that context, Srila Prabhupada writes, by the simple act of offering obeisances, bowing down to a person, what can happen? Okay, mercy. Any other guesses? Huh? Okay, servitudes. One becomes humble. Any other answer? Huh? Lifespan increases. Acha, because of blessings. Okay, possible. Ah, correct. That you're referring to fourth canto, Prithu Maharaj section. When those people got up, it said that the prana, when one that is referring to standing up to respect a person. This is bowing down, but that is when one stands up. Then it said that the when one offers respect, the pranas go out, and then by standing up, the pranas come back. So if one does not stand up, then the pranas leave. That means lifespan reduces. Okay, so now we're talking about bowing down. So what is the benefit of bowing down? Okay, okay, you're quite right. You're quite right. Good wishes. Okay, in that context, Srila Prabhupada writes, when one, by the simple act of bowing down in front of a superior or any person, so many offenses can be nullified. So if you have committed offenses to the person, bow down, then the person thinks, "ठीक है, चलो, माफ कर दो, कोई बात नहीं." So offenses get nullified by bowing down. And then by not offering respects, bowing down, what could be consequences? Some pastime. One is Romaharshan, Indra, Brihaspati. So by not offering respects, you see, there could be disasters by not offering respects. So therefore, the Vaishnav etiquette is not simply a formality or a ritual. It is something which is very essential in our practice of devotional service. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Sanatana Goswami, what he says? Yes, that is, yes, Sadhura Bhushan. So observance of Vaishnava etiquette is Sadhura Bhushan. It is the ornament. And if one does not observe that, then what Mahaprabhu says? So one becomes a laughing stock, one becomes, basically he says laughing stock. In this life as well as the next, if one does not observe the Vaishnava etiquettes. And of course, in the third canto, we have the wonderful purport on, in the context of Uddhav and Vidura and Maitreya, Maryada Vyatikrama. And there Srila Prabhupada is explaining that if one does not observe the Maryada, then what all reduces? Lifespan, opulence, accumulated pious. Yes, opulences. So all these things reduce if one does not follow the proper etiquettes. And so therefore, very important. So one should not be lazy in offering respects. As Srila Prabhupada, he speaks quite a few times in his lectures also, that how Raghunath Das Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, every day they offered so many obeisances to so many Vaishnavas. They offered 1,000, 1,000, something. So many obeisances they offer. So, one interesting point, His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Maharaj, in one class in Coimbatore, he was making this point. So he said, so once he met His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, and so Bhaktivinoda Maharaj offered obeisances, and then Radhanath Maharaj also offered obeisances. So Bhaktivinoda Maharaj was, no, not needed for you, Maharaj. So anybody knows what Radhanath Maharaj said? A very interesting yet profound answer. So he said, then there is no need to chant also. There's no need to chant also. Somebody wants to give purport? What it means? Ah. Yes. I think so you want to say something. Bolo.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Haridas Thakur, you don't need to chant while leaving his body. He was telling you don't need to chant. But
So many
Haridas
rounds.
Thakur was telling it is my body is right, but my mind is not. Right.
Correct. So basically the point is that if one thinks that offering obeisances and following all these etiquettes is not required, it's not important, then tomorrow one will say even chanting is not important. One will give that up also. So today one gives this up, tomorrow one will give that also up. So therefore, the point is that just like the chanting is important for our own purification, so similarly the offering of obeisances and following of etiquettes is also important for our own purification. So therefore, everything needs to be followed properly. That's the point. For our own purification, for our own progress. So if we take things lightly, cheaply, so today one will compromise one thing, tomorrow one will compromise another thing. So like that, things get compromised. So therefore, one needs to follow. Okay, fine. So, so Devatas did Dandavat to the Supreme Lord.
But over the period of time, this
Pamo.
This kind of tendency will come, not inclined to offer obeisances or the follow the basic. So, Prabhu is telling that this is the vancha like that. Sri Guru Prabhu. So, Prabhuji, why this tendency is developing? Is that taking this thing granted or not giving importance to basic etiquettes and manners? And what should be our mood to focus on this basic and important thing?
Okay, good question. So okay, let's give the question to others in the respected personalities in the audience.
Online, Prabhu?
Oh yes, sorry. Thank you for reminding. I always tend to forget.
Dhanot Pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Familiarity breeds contempt. That can be one reason.
Yes, that's the most important reason. Familiarity breeds contempt. Yes. Something else?
Laziness.
Okay, another one is laziness, laziness to follow. Correct. Something else?
Lack of gratitude.
Lack of gratitude. So what happens?
Uh, we, we because we are not grateful, we tend to compromise the importance of the fortune we have of having the association of devotees. We take spiritual items materially, and we tend to offend also by such not following the etiquettes. So
Okay, fine. So yes, being ungrateful, not taking it seriously. Okay, fine.
Thinking oneself more advanced.
Okay, thinking oneself superior. Thinking oneself superior to the other person. Of course, he asked a more general question, not only just in case of offering obeisance, right? You asked a more general question, isn't it? More general, why do we neglect some basic aspects of devotional service which we may have been very serious initially? Yes, Sachindan.
Because of a negative association or the associating of those who are not following or
Okay, yes, a wrong association. That's correct. Yes, due to offenses. Yes, that's also correct. Hmm?
Upcoming trends.
Oh. What are the latest upcoming trends?
Sometimes someone may think in that way that this is what the culture is, because all others maintain this culture in particular atmosphere. So we also follow.
The latest fashion.
Right.
And it just reminded me of this story that Srila Prabhupada said. Prabhupada told two stories, a little unrelated. Should I tell? Latest fashion. Prabhupada told two stories regarding this. We will tell you what's the context a little later. So that is one of them. So another one is so once a woodcutter, he was cutting wood. I mean, he was cutting a tree with the axe, kuladi. And so big tree, so he got tired. Half of it was cut. So he thought, I'll continue cutting tomorrow. So the half part of the tree trunk was cut. So then what he did, because if nothing is placed in between, then this will close. Then again, the next day too, once again, he has to sort of cut again. So therefore, to prevent these two cut edges from closing, he placed a small piece of wood to prevent them from closing. So then one monkey came. Monkeys are always monkeys, very mischievous. So monkey said, "Hey, what is this very strange? What is this piece of wood doing here in between?" So the monkey, he pulled it out, that piece of wood in between. And then these two cut ends closed. But as they closed, the monkey's tail got stuck in between. So now the monkey is not able to now separate those two ends and remove the tail. He can't do all that. So he tried to get himself free. It didn't work. So then he pulled. So when he pulled, the tail got cut. Now for monkeys, tails are very precious. That is their abhushan. And that is the reason why Ravana puts Hanuman's tail on fire, because that's what he also says. For monkeys, the tails are very important. So now the monkey's tail got cut. So he was thinking, Arey, what will other monkeys say? They will make fun of me. They will laugh, joke. What to do? So then he went. So when he went to amongst his monkey friends, they all started laughing, joking, "Arey, what happened? Where's your tail?" So he replied, "Arey, you don't know? This is the latest fashion." And another story is the Charlie Chaplin story. You know that, no? The coat got stuck up to stone. Then he also, when he went into the dance, then he also said, "This is the latest fashion." How these days the parents, they get very upset when children come into the Hare Krishna movement, just like Daksha was upset. So they don't want to accept that the materialistic life is miserable. So the parents, they say, "What is the latest fashion? What is the latest fashion? Eat, drink."
What should be the proper
Solution.
mood? We should with which mood we have to practice these basic activities, acts, and etiquettes and manners.
Right. So therefore, what is the solution to avoid familiarity breeds contempt? That is the usual reason. The usual reason, most common reason is this: familiarity breeds contempt. Other reasons also could be there, but one of the most common reasons is this: familiarity. So how to avoid this familiarity? Yes, Kadamgan.
So like it can even happen with spiritual master or something like that. So it is said we hear from a person, and if it is happening, so we have to hear glories of that person from some other person. Then we get some understanding. Otherwise, we take them to check cheaply.
Okay, fine. So that's correct. So this is especially in reference to offering obeisances, correct? But he's asking a more general question. So many activities in devotional service. It could be attending Mangalarti or offering obeisances, offering flowers, offering arti, or it could be attending Bhagavatam class. So any of these activities in devotional service over a period of time, as Srila Prabhupada says, it becomes hackneyed, stereotyped. So how to avoid this? How to avoid this? Okay, Arjuneshwar.
We see that Krishna conscious movement is not a, as you mentioned, it's a moment of consciousness.
Yes.
So then the training has to be there. Regular training has to be there. This is one thing. Second thing, the people should also be engaged in training others. So they will also become cautious that they have to also behave in that way. So they need a good engagement. Otherwise, if there is no engagement, so people don't follow. People think that it's a ritualistic. When they preach, they also train people. So then they also have to follow.
Correct.
And then regular training has to be there. And they will also have, if they have good ideal teachers, means
Mm.
ideal people who are following this thing. So then
Mm.
they will see and they'll emulate those things. So they have to associate with those devotees also.
Yes, good points, good points. Okay, online? Online, any points? How to avoid this things becoming hackneyed, stereotyped, familiar? Okay, no answers online. Here's some answers.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, go ahead.
Remembering that, before coming to Krishna consciousness, what our position is, and then always having that consciousness that I'm always a devotee who just came to Krishna consciousness.
Okay, good point. Okay, being in the consciousness that I'm still a neophyte devotee. Okay, but don't remain neophyte. But being in the mood that yes, I'm a new devotee. Okay, yes, bro.
We should attend the seminar. Why we do what we do.
Yes, so therefore, yes, reminding ourselves,
Yeah,
reminding
why?
ourselves why we do what we do. Yes, good. Bro.
Due to lack of sadhana, when we don't read properly, proper books, then we generally lose taste for the basic things.
Okay, good point. Okay, let's see one purport.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
Prabhu, I think it's just the purification process. Everyone is not going to mature that soon. So as much as we do our sadhana, as the previous person said, devotee said, or slowly and steadily that disease will go of looking at other people as material bodies. If they are, devotees or brahmacharis or something, and then you get very close to them, and so that closeness to them should actually, with the melting of heart, should actually increase, and the material concept should go away, and it should bring people more closer together. If
Okay,
only
fine. So not having the material outlook.
Yeah,
Okay.
but even by theory, it will not go. It will take time, Prabhu.
Yes, definitely. Everything takes time. That's correct. Okay. 4th canto, 30th chapter, 3-0. Text 20. We gave this reference a few times before. Read the translation and the purport. This is Narad Muni speaking to the Prachetas.
Always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. The all-knower, the super soul within the heart of the devotee, makes everything increasingly fresh. This is known as the Brahmana position by the advocates of the absolute truth. In such a liberated stage, Brahma Bhuta, one is never bewildered, nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahma Bhuta situation.
Purport.
A devotee is inspired by the super soul within the heart to advance in devotional service in a variety of ways. The devotee does not feel heckled or stereotyped, nor does he feel that he is in a stagnant position. In the material world, if one engages in chanting a material name, he will feel tired after chanting a few times. However, one can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra all day and night and never feel tired. As chanting is increased, it will come out new and fresh. Srila Rupa Goswami said that if he could somehow get millions of ears and tongues, then he could relish spiritual bliss by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There is really nothing inspiring for a highly advanced devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He is situated in everyone's heart and that He helps the living entity forget and remember. By the grace of the Lord, the devotee gets inspiration. Tesam satata bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yagam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Continue, bro. As stated, kusala karmanam. Those engaged in auspicious activities in devotional service are guided by the super soul, described in this verse as Gya, one who knows everything, past, present, and future. The super soul gives instruction to the sincere, unalloyed devotee on how he can progress more and more in approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Jiva Goswami in this connection says that the super soul, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, exists in everyone's heart. But in the heart of a devotee who reveals himself as ever increasingly new, being inspired by him, the devotee experiences increased transcendental bliss in the execution of his devotional service.
Good, thank you. So, who makes everything fresh? Super soul. Devotee gets inspiration from super soul. So the super soul makes everything increasingly fresh. But for whom does he do that? For whom does he do that? Super soul gives instructions to sincere, unalloyed devotee. That is what is required. Then everything becomes ever new, ever fresh. Then nothing is stagnant. Therefore, it said, there is nothing really uninspiring for a highly advanced devotee. Srila Prabhupada was reading his own books. Again and again, he was reading his own books. Srila Prabhupada would hear Krishna's pastimes in the Los Angeles temple garden, which was full of tulsi plants. Srila Prabhupada said it's like Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada would sit there every evening with a few devotees and have one devotee read Krishna book. And Srila Prabhupada would be in ecstasy listening to Krishna's pastimes. And Shruti Prabhu tells the pastime of how when Srila Prabhupada heard the liberation of Dvivida by Lord Balaram, he was laughing and laughing and laughing. Why? He was hearing for first time. He only wrote them. Why? This is who does this work? Super soul. Because Krishna is Naviyavanam. He's ever new. So same Krishna Nam, same Krishna Katha, even though the same, yet is not the same. Because Krishna manifests in unlimited ways. So we can read the same thing and yet experience something totally different, different realization. But one price has to be paid for that. What? Sincere, unalloyed. Yes, and tesham, satadayuktanam, bhajatam, priti purvakam. So yesterday in the brahmachari class, we were discussing these points. So basically Krishna has to give that taste, right? Krishna has to give the taste, the realization. So for that, what is required? So before ruchi, what comes? In the 9 stages? Nishtha. And what does nishtha mean? Steadiness. So therefore, the sincerity is the steady practice. Sincere and serious. So that is the steady practice. So that is the price one needs to pay. So every day the same practice, even though there is no taste. तो बहुत बार क्या होता है, ठीक है अभी क्या है, अरे मंगलाती रोज तो अटेंड करते ही एक दिन नहीं करेंगे तो क्या होगा. Sometimes the mind gives those thoughts, right? Because we have not yet got sufficient taste. So therefore one thinks, okay, it's all right if I don't attend sometimes, what is there? But then Krishna says, no. Even though there is no taste, one has to do it every day. What is the Shastric reference for this? Yes. 7th verse of Nectar of Instruction. Syat Krishna Nama Charita Disitapi Vidya Pitto Patapta Rasanasya Narochika. No Rochika. So there is no Ruchi. But still, what to do? Kintu Adarad Anudinam Kalu Saivaja. So this is what one has to do. Even though there is no taste, even though it is bitter, but still what one has to do? Continue to take the same thing, even though it is bitter. That is austerity, correct? If it is sweet, it is easy. But now it is bitter. But in spite of it being bitter, one has to do the same thing. That's the tapasya. But if one goes through that tapasya, then what will happen? Then this is what will happen. Then Krishna will make everything fresh. Krishna will give the taste. But if that sincerity is not there, if one doesn't do those activities every day in spite of not having taste, if one does not do those activities, then one will never get the taste. Then after some time, no taste. Then everything becomes dry. Everything becomes tasteless because the disease is still there. Just like the jaundice. So if he says, "Arey, the sugar candy is very bitter, I will not take," what will happen? Disease will remain. Same principle here. That is why Rupa Goswami is giving that analogy. So this is very important actually as we progress in devotional service. This is very important, and this is what happens after some years to many devotees. And then people talk of mid-age crisis and things like that. But this is the actual crisis. There is no other crisis.
Yesterday you are giving example of the Indra and Rospati. That fraction of second, he just ignored and immediately lesson. He faces long-term consequences. So this will be happening, like if we lag in these practices, this will happen with us also.
That is why it is there in Shastra. That is what Shastra is teaching us. So therefore one needs to be very attentive. One needs to be very attentive in all what one is doing. So that is the test, that is the price one has to pay. So if one meticulously performs, takes the medicine every day. So what is the medicine? The process that Srila Prabhupada has given us, simple. There's no need to manufacture something. The process that Srila Prabhupada has given, that is what one needs to do every day. So if one doesn't do it because of all those various reasons, because of laziness or familiarity or whatever may be the reason, if one doesn't do it, then one will never get the taste. Rather, after some time, one begins to lose the taste. And then people wonder, what's happening? So many years pass, but still no taste, this, that. And then some people, what they do? They think, okay, the process is not working. Let me go somewhere outside and see some other process may work. No, nothing is going to work. The basic process that Srila Prabhupada has given, that's all what we need to follow. But we need to follow it as Srila Prabhupada told us to follow. Every day. All the various aspects. So yesterday also we were discussing. So Srila Prabhupada very clearly says morning and evening classes. So for different reasons, evening classes are not happening practically nowhere in ISKCON. Or even if they are happening, nobody is attending. Or some new people will attend. So then, but still one cannot neglect the instruction of the founder Acharya. This is basic instruction which Srila Prabhupada has given. So that means what? We have to have a substitute class. Substitute has to be there. That is how, to the degree one will follow sincerely and seriously the instructions of the founder Acharya, then to that degree, everything will become dynamic and there will be taste, everything will be ever fresh, ever new. then there is great inspiration to practice devotional service. Ultimately, everything has to be given by super soul. But for that, super soul has to be pleased with our practices. That is the austerity one has to go through.
Follow the instructions of the spiritual master. So, like Prabhupada is saying about the evening class, so you said we should follow, and then afternoon class we have. So similarly, there are many instructions of Prabhupada. Then, like one is about that around any temple, 10 miles around, nobody should go hungry. So now, how we understand this is primary instruction and secondary? Because Prabhupada never said this is primary and this is secondary. So we are not following that also. 10 miles around any temple, nobody should go hungry, right? So
but
then,
food for life is happening, no?
but 10, they may 1 mile. No, 1 mile may be काफी hungry है इधर around the temple. So that we are not following as it is, Prabhupada.
See, there are some things which we have to do according to what's practical. Correct. But there are some instructions which are mandatory. And this is one of them. Why? How do we know that? This we can judge by how many times Srila Prabhupada is emphasized. So these instructions, that famous letter we were quoting yesterday also. Letter to Sudama, February 16th, 1973. So Srila Prabhupada has written there, within these Vaishnava standards that are put forth lies the spiritual strength of the entire movement. And we showed one letter, but then these instructions have been repeated again and again. And there are so many pastimes. You may have heard the Burujan Prabhu's pastime, Tamal Krishna Maharaj's pastime, where Srila Prabhupada emphasized. Burujan Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada directly asked, are you in ISKCON? Are you my disciple? So that is how we understand what is more important and what is less important. So everything is important, but some things are very important based upon how Srila Prabhupada treated them with great importance. So therefore, so other things according to time, place, circumstances, capacity, they need to be followed, but they can be modified or whatever. But some things are very important. But so what can be compromised, what cannot be compromised, what is one's capacity? So then that's the sincerity. Sincerity means trying one's best. That is sincerity, without any ulterior motives. So to the degree one is trying to do that, then Krishna is pleased, then he'll give the taste.
This instruction is for only management. Or
what?
Like 10-kilometer radius.
So everyone is manager only. Okay, fine. So further down in the purport, they're writing, the currents of material nature are very powerful and one should therefore cling tightly. And there are some lectures also where Prabhupada says, hold on to Krishna's lotus feet very tightly. Otherwise, the violent waves of sense gratification and mental speculation will undoubtedly sweep one away from one's eternal constitutional position as the loving servant of the Supreme Lord, and one will then fall down into the stringent bondage described as Urupashat, very powerful illusory network. Okay, next, text 8. Tvam mayaya trigunayatmani durvibhavyam vyaktam srujasya vasilum pasitad gunastha Naiter bhavan ajita karma bhir ajjate vai yatsve sukhe vyavahite bhirato navadhya.
O unconquerable Lord, you engage your illusory energy composed of 3 modes to unleash, maintain, and devastate the inconceivable manifest cosmos, all within your own self. As the supreme superintendent of Maya, you appear to be situated in the interaction of the modes of nature. However, you are never affected by material activities. In fact, you are directly engaged in your own eternal spiritual bliss, and thus you cannot be accused of any material infection.
Okay, so here the word is Tvam Maya Trigunayatmani Durvibhavyam. Durvibhavyam means inconceivable. This word comes somewhere else also in the Bhagavatam, right? Durvibhavyam, inconceivable. So what is inconceivable? As in the purport is mentioned, the ultimate cause of creation, maintenance, annihilation of the material world is certainly inconceivable even for the greatest mundane scientists who waste their lives in useless and fruitless speculation. Yet Mahavishnu, who is the secondary expansion of the Supreme Lord Krishna, sees the entire cosmos to be like an insignificant atom. So for Mahavishnu, every universe is like atom. So what hope is there for foolish so-called scientists who try to understand Krishna with a ridiculous experimental power? Thus the word anavadya is used. No one can find fault or discrepancy in the body, character, activities, or instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so the Lord has achintya shaktis, and therefore everything about him is inconceivable, and therefore very difficult for us to understand everything about him with our very limited, materially contaminated mind and senses. Therefore, when things are inconceivable, what one should do? Yes. So therefore, one should directly accept without trying to speculate and concoct different theories and understandings. So no one can find fault. This is anavadya, correct? The meaning of anavadya is the unimpeachable Lord. Unimpeachable. That means he cannot be blamed. One cannot find faults. Anavadya. One of the reasons that Uddhav gives, it comes later on, or it's finished, right? 5 reasons Uddhav gives why to accept Krishna as the perfect master. Yeah, it's in the 11th canto only. And I think so, it has already been covered, I think. No, Uddhav didn't start, correct. Sorry. Yes, at the beginning of it will come. Maybe in the next chapter or yes, very likely in the next chapter. Yes, when Krishna begins to speak to Uddhav. So anyway, one of the reasons he gives there is also anavadya, faultless. So therefore, the important point is whatever the Lord does is faultless. And therefore, whatever is happening in my life and others' life, everything is faultless. There is no fault, whether one can understand it or not. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada has written that beautiful statement in the invocation to Ishopanishad. What? All forms of incompleteness are due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. So if you're thinking something is incomplete, something is wrong, there's some fault, it is only because of our incomplete knowledge. Otherwise, whatever the Lord does, everything is perfect. There cannot be any faults. And therefore, one of the names of the Supreme Lord, which Sutta Goswami gives in the 1st canto, 3rd chapter, text 34, is what? First canto, 3rd chapter, text 34. 34? Oh no, not 34, I think. 23, I think. Amoga Leela. Amoga Leela. Amoga Leela means spotless. Spotless. And so in that purport, Srila Prabhupada says, what's the exact reference you got? 36, correct. Yes, 1336. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada writes Therefore, there is nothing lamentable in the Lord's creation. And those who find faults, they themselves will have to lament. I'm paraphrasing, yes. The prime difference between the Lord and the living entities, the Lord is the creator, living entities are the created. Here is called Amoga Leela, which indicates there's nothing lamentable in his creation. Those who create disturbance in creation are themselves disturbed. That is what's happening modern age. They're trying to create disturbances in the Lord's creation, therefore they themselves are getting disturbed. So the important point is, so if you go to the word-to-word meaning, go to the word-to-word. See, where is that? Amoga Leela. One whose activities are spotless. So that's the same meaning. So here it is anavadyam, same meaning, unimpeachable. Unimpeachable means cannot be blamed. Impeached means to find faults or to sue someone in the courts. Yes, not to be doubted, questioned, criticized. That's unimpeachable. So if one has faith in this, then life becomes quite simple. Everything is perfect, whatever is happening. So then when one actually realizes this, then na shochati na kankshati. Nothing to lament, nothing to hanker. Everything is perfect. So the only thing that one should hanker for is progress in devotional service. That's the only thing. Otherwise, there's nothing else to hanker for or lament. Right. So that's the quality of the Durvibhavyam. And then in the next paragraph, they're writing, Lord Krishna is stated here, Sve Sve Vyabahite Abhiratha. He is eternally busy day and night in his transcendental abode, relishing the inconceivable loving devotion of his innumerable associates. So that's the main thing what the Lord does, is enjoying beautiful pastimes with the devotees. 9th verse.
This impeccable character, the same word is there or that is different?
Similar, impeccable, impeachable, same thing. No, impeachable is, to impeach is to blame or criticize. That's impeach. And so peccable is same as impeach. Okay, same thing, cannot find faults. We use this impeccable character. That means faultless character. Okay, 9th verse. Shuddhi ninam natudadidhya durashayanam vidya shrutadhyayanadhana tapakriyabhi satvatmanam rushabate yashasi pravriddha Satshraddhaya Shravana Sambrutaya Yathasyat.
O greatest of all, those whose consciousness is polluted by illusion cannot purify themselves merely by ordinary worship, study of the Vedas, charity, austerity, and ritual activities. Our Lord, those pure souls who have developed a powerful transcendental faith in your glories, achieve a purified state of existence that can never be attained by those lacking such faith.
So in the previous verse they described that the Lord is Durvibhavyam. He is inconceivable. And so therefore here they're explaining who cannot understand and who can understand. So who cannot understand? Shuddhi Ninam Na. Those whose consciousness is not purified. Na Shuddhi. So if the Shuddhi is not there, it's very difficult to understand. So one whose consciousness is polluted, Durashayanam, consciousness is contaminated, then they cannot understand And they cannot purify themselves by vidya, shruta, adhyayana, dana, tapa, kriyabhi. So they can do all this, but if their consciousness does not become purified, then it is not possible for one to understand the Supreme Lord. Okay? So then who can understand? Sattva Atmanam. So those who are situated in Sattva. So more the Sattva, better the understanding. Because the consciousness then becomes clear. Then what will happen? Yashasi pravriddha. So then one gets a mature understanding of the Lord's yasha. And so then one can develop sat shraddhaya, transcendental faith. So this is transcendental faith, mature faith. And that faith gets reinforced by what? Shravana samvrittaya, by the process of hearing. So this is a very important verse. In the purport they mention, even if a pure devotee is lacking the above qualifications, such as Vedic study or austerity, if he has unflinching faith in Lord Krishna, the Lord will save him because of his devotion. On the other hand, if one becomes falsely proud of one's material qualifications, including ordinary piety, but does not devote himself to hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna, the result will ultimately be nil. The transcendental spirit soul cannot be purified by any amount of material piety, charity, or scholarship. Only the transcendental Supreme Lord can purify the transcendental living entity by bestowing his mercy within the heart. The demigods were astonished at the good fortune. Even by hearing about Krishna, one achieves all perfection, but they had entered the Lord's own city and were seeing him standing before them. So these points are repeated in many places, right from Bhagavad Gita. Correct? Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says that one cannot understand by studying the Vedas, charity and all these things. Where he says that? Yes, the eighth chapter, last verse, that is also there. And also in the 11th chapter. In the 11th chapter also, when he once again shows the, no, even, he says, even for seeing the Virat Roop, one cannot see unless by all these material qualifications. Yes, of course. Then when he shows the Sham Sundar form, then he says this form is Dud Darshana. Very difficult. So, yes, correct. Correct. Perfect. That's correct. So even to see the Virat Roop, some devotion is required because that's like a material form. So the important point is simply material qualifications cannot help one understand the Supreme Lord. Only the material qualifications are not sufficient for one to make progress on the spiritual path. So what is required? Purified state of existence that can never be attained by those lacking such faith. So this faith is what? Sat Shraddha. So how one can develop that faith? Yes. Faith is developed by association. There's the only way to increase faith. Association. So this Srila Prabhupada writes in 9th chapter Bhagavad Gita, 3rd verse. What is 9th chapter, 3rd verse? Aushadadana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapyamam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. You can just show that. And there in that same purport, Srila Prabhupada is describing the 3 levels of devotees according to faith. So we all know that, Kanishta Madhyam Uttam. So the faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. That is the purport of this word. Faith is created by association with devotees. That is the singular factor for increasing faith. Faith is created by association with devotees, those who have faith. That's the only way the faith can develop. So therefore, that is what is most important. So therefore, here also said, even if a pure devotee is lacking the above qualifications, which qualifications? Vidya, Shruta, Adhyan, Dana, Tapa, all those things. But if he has unflinching faith in Lord Krishna, Lord will save him. Best example? Who didn't have any qualifications? Okay, Gajendra, of course, and at least in previous life he had something.
Narad Muni?
Narad Muni.
Sorry.
South Indian Brahmana.
Say that. Somebody said something.
South Indian Brahmana.
Yes, the South Indian Brahmana. The South Indian, practically illiterate. He didn't have any of these. Vidya, Shruta, Adhyan, Dana, Tapa, nothing he had. But what he had? Faith in the instructions of the spiritual master. So because with that faith, so see, initially one may say faith is preliminary. Adau Shraddha. So with that little faith, what one should do? One should follow. So when one follows, then the faith becomes more and more firm. Dhrida Shraddha. So in the association of devotees, when one associates with those who have faith, then one follows. When one follows, then the faith becomes more and more fixed. And then it does not matter how much knowledge of the Shastra one doesn't have, doesn't make big difference because the goal has been achieved. As Srila Prabhupada gives example, if one becomes millionaire, then how he has become millionaire is immaterial. Whether he worked hard for it or he got his father's property or he did something. Okay. Now he's become millionaire. So similarly, if one develops that firm faith, then finished. Goal has been achieved. But for that, what is required is to attract the grace. Therefore, it said, only the transcendental Supreme Lord can purify the transcendental living entity by bestowing His mercy within the heart. And therefore, in the process, the great emphasis is laid on attracting mercy by satisfying the bona fide spiritual master by following his instructions. So sometimes devotees get doubt that well, I'm doing my services and all that, but is my spiritual master being satisfied? We hardly get to meet the spiritual master, the Diksha Guru. So how do we understand whether he's being satisfied? How do we understand?
Prabhuji, if we are continuously doing our services and not getting bored and we are doing it with our heart and soul, like for example, chanting, reading, and whatever our authorities have given that service, if you're doing with good heart, which means the mercy is flowing. If the mercy is not flowing, which means we will stop doing those services, Prabhuji.
Okay, that's correct. That's correct. So in any case, whether we know it or not, we should have faith that if we are following the process sincerely, then the process is definitely going to work. And the spiritual master and Krishna are definitely going to reciprocate. So in that context, I'm sure maybe you have heard the pastor of Niranjan Maharaj. You heard? Cleaning the room. Tell. Give him the mic. No, no.
Cannot be compared with any.
I'm Karela.
Then I am something below that. I don't have no for Prabhupada.
Say something, Baba.
With your order, I speak some try, but you can give all the details.
No.
So what I
Anyway,
heard
how many
was-
of you have heard that pastime?
Everyone has heard. They are very humble.
Renovating Prabhupada's rooms at Boston. Yes. The
Yeah,
sincere devotees find everything ever fresh.
Yes. And they remember also.
Bolo.
Because they relish.
Bolo.
So his temple president, he was distributing books, I believe. And his name is Niranjan Maharaj. That time, some Prabhu, I think. I don't know what is his name that time. So he was told to clean the room of Prabhupada, and he wanted to go to receive Prabhupada, I think. So basically, he did that, but somehow he did the clean the room, and Prabhupada didn't go there. Prabhupada didn't come only at that. But temple president was happy, so he personally took him to airport. And so he connects the both things that if we just, so now you.
Okay, you did get the essence, quite close.
Thank you very much. I heard from you one.
Oh, really? So, and the Boston temple had recently purchased a new building, an old building, which need to be renovated. And they wanted to have Prabhupada's rooms within that building. So, Niranjan Maharaj had a background of some temple construction, renovation, carpentry, and things like that. So the temple president wanted him to help with the renovation of this building and Srila Prabhupada's rooms. So at that time, as most devotees those days would be very enthusiastically doing book distribution to please Srila Prabhupada. So Niranjan Maharaj was also away somewhere doing book distribution. And so the temple president called him and said, so please come to renovate this building. So Niranjan Maharaj says, no, I'm busy distributing Srila Prabhupada's book. So the temple president says, okay, anyways, you come here for some time and then we will discuss. So anyway, so he came and then he showed him that old building. And then he asked Niranjan Maharaj, so would you like your spiritual master to stay in these rooms? So he says, no, they're too broken down. So then the temple president says, okay, do something about it. So then Niranjan Maharaj works day and night to renovate those rooms because very soon Srila Prabhupada was going to come over there. The rooms were almost renovated. And then one day, the temple president says, okay, we'll go to the New York temple because the Italian tiles for the room have come over there. And so the temple president Niranjan Maharaj, they go towards New York. The temple president himself is driving. But when they come close to New York, instead of entering New York City, he takes a turn towards the airport. And so they go to the airport, and then the temple president tells him, so actually, we are not going to the New York temple for the tiles. We are going to the New York airport to receive Srila Prabhupada. And when Niranjan Maharaj hears this, he was so happy because he was already second initiated, but had not seen Srila Prabhupada face to face even once. And so he was so happy that finally he's going to have darshan of his spiritual master. And so they go over there to the airport. Those days, 200, 300 devotees would be there to welcome Srila Prabhupada, huge kirtan and all that. And of course, he describes in detail his first darshan of Srila Prabhupada. So first darshan, he sees Srila Prabhupada coming down the elevator and totally effulgent, Vaikuntha man. And he comes down, and all the devotees, so much of ecstasy. People, literally, devotees would be shouting, crying, all symptoms of ecstasy. And all the other passengers would be totally bewildered. What's happening? And then Srila Prabhupada comes down the elevator, and then he begins to walk. And then he says, he saw that Srila Prabhupada is not walking on the ground, he's gliding, as if going against the law of gravity. So therefore Srila Prabhupada could walk very fast. It was a fact. His 20-year-old disciples could not catch up with him on his morning walks. He used to walk so fast. So in any case, so he had this beautiful darshan of Srila Prabhupada. No words were exchanged, only the darshan. But of course, Niranjan Maharaj was so happy. And then Srila Prabhupada sits in the car and drives off to the New York temple. And Niranjan Maharaj and the temple president come back to Boston. And then, when the scheduled date came, when Srila Prabhupada was supposed to come to Boston, what happens was, Srila Prabhupada receives invitation from the then Indian Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. All right. So we know the meeting of Prabhupada with Indira Gandhi, short time. He gives those some 10 points. So that meeting was scheduled during that time. So Srila Prabhupada, he could not come to Boston. He goes back to India. And after that, Srila Prabhupada never gets a chance to come to Boston and occupy those rooms that had been painstakingly renovated by Niranjan Maharaj. But Niranjan Maharaj's realization is that the service never goes in vain. Prabhupada never came to occupy those rooms, but as a reward for his service, Srila Prabhupada gave him his own darshan. That was the reward for the service. So that's how the service never goes in vain. The spiritual master and Krishna will always reciprocate with the service of the devotee. Even though apparently it may seem that they don't know or they're not reciprocating, but we have to be assured that definitely they know and the reciprocation will take place. And what is the proof for this? Okay, the pastime is there, but we should also have some Shastric proof, isn't it?
This like the similar incidents happened in New Vrindavan, where Maharaj was told to fix the toilet. The whole night he fixed the flush and toilet, and then in the morning Prabhupada takes a lota and goes out.
That's right. Yes. Correct. So now we'll give a Shastric proof for this. So every year, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, on the day when the Chaitanya Charitamrita was completed, he lectures on the concluding words of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you know when the Chaitanya Charitamrita was completed? Yes. When? Okay, so this is Rama Ekadashi. Rama Ekadashi is the first Ekadashi of Kartik. So precisely it was Sunday, November 10th, 1974. This was the day when the translation and purpose to the Chaitanya Charitamrita had been completed. So so at that time, Srila Prabhupada was in Bombay, Giriraj Maharaj was there, and so that morning, Giriraj Maharaj tells this pastime. So that morning, as every day Srila Prabhupada would come down around 6 o'clock for the morning walk. That day Srila Prabhupada didn't come. And so he went up to Srila Prabhupada's rooms and he saw door is locked from inside, light is off, and the servant's room beside, that also was closed, no light. So Giriraj Maharaj knocks on the servant's door. And so the servant, he opens the door a little bit. So Maharaj asks, so what happened? Why Srila Prabhupada has not come today for the morning walk? So the servant replies, Srila Prabhupada has just finished last night, he has just finished the translations and purports to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he is in a state of great ecstasy. That was the answer. That was the answer he gets. But in any case, so you can open that. The concluding words of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. See, go to Antilila. So you go at the end, there are concluding words. Go to last chapter. No. Okay, go to the. So if you click on this side, open karo. Usko open karo. Now go. See that concluding words. Yes. Today is Sunday, November 10, 1974, corresponding to the 10th of Kartik, Chaitanya era, 11th day of the duck, Rama Ekadashi. It's not Ram Ekadashi, it's Rama Ekadashi. We have now finished the English translation of Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in accordance with the authorized order of His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj, my beloved, eternal, spiritual master, guide, and friends. Although according to material vision, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, passed away from this material world on the last day of December 1936, I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me by His Vani, His words. He's always present. Right. So, anyways, he describes, it's very beautiful actually. All devotees should read the whole thing. It's very, very beautiful. But anyway, in context of our discussion, we'll go to one point. Just go a little ahead. So he describes his meeting with the spiritual master. He's describing all that. Go ahead. So, he's describing how Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur would read Chaitanya Charitamrita in his leisure time. It was his favorite book. Okay, go here. I think that His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by His words. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Spiritual inspiration comes from within the heart, wherein the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His Paramatma feature is always sitting with all His devotees and associates. So the spiritual master is also there with all his devotees and associates. And therefore, you see the faith that Srila Prabhupada has is always seeing my activities. He has full faith. He's always seeing my activities and guiding me. And so therefore he says, it is to be admitted that whatever translation work I have done is through the inspiration of my spiritual master, because personally I am most insignificant and incompetent to do this materially impossible work. I do not think myself a very learned scholar, but I have full faith in the service of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If there's any credit, see those words, if there's any credit to my activities of translating, it is all due to His Divine Grace. So you can see Srila Prabhupada's faith in a spiritual master, faith that he's always watching him, inspiring him, guiding him. So that is what is being described here. So that is the goal, to develop that faith. So if one develops that faith, then yes, that's the ultimate achievement. So you can see. And because Srila Prabhupada has that full faith, therefore, no credit for himself. Yes, full faith. That's all happening by the grace of the spiritual master. Yes. So that is what is being said over here. So if one doesn't develop this faith, then one can do all this vidya, shruta, adhyan, dana, tapa, kriya, all these one can do. But if one does not develop such faith, then what is the use? So the fruit of all our devotional practices is to develop that firm faith. And when one develops that firm faith, then yes, that's the goal. On the other hand, one has so many other material qualifications, one simply becomes proud, one doesn't develop the faith. What's the use? Okay? Huh. One? Therefore, unless one gets the spiritual encouragement, by following the instructions of the spiritual master, it is not possible to make advancement. Therefore, one's development of a taste for executing these instructions is the test of one's devotional service. Initially, one must develop confidence by hearing the signs of devotion from a qualified spiritual master. Then, as he associates with devotees and tries to adopt the means instructed by the spiritual master in his own life, his misgivings and other obstacles are vanquished with execution of devotional service. Strong attachment for the transcendental service of the Lord develops as he continues listening to the messages of Godhead, and if he steadfastly proceeds in this way, he is certainly elevated to the spontaneous love of the soul. Okay, so that's the important point, yes. One gets the spiritual encouragement by following the instructions of the spiritual master. And that's how he's able to make advancement. Yes, that's the spiritually powerful message of Godhead can be properly discussed only in a society of devotees, satam prasangat, and is greatly pleasing to hear in that association. If one hears from devotees, the way of transcendental experience quickly opens, and gradually one attains firm faith that in due course develops into attraction and devotion. Prabhupada is paraphrasing. Of course, they are related because here, as you can see, firm faith, which in due course develops into attraction and devotion. So how to develop that firm faith, that's what he is explaining. So, yes, so that's the beauty of Prabhupada's purports. So many wonderful insights. Same verse. The same verse in Bhagavatam has a totally different purport. Yes. Okay, text 10. Syanasthavangrir ashubhashaya dhomaketu Ksemayayo munibiradra hridayamana yasatvate samavibhutaya atmavadbhir vyuherchita savanasha swar atikramaya.
Great sages, desiring the highest benefit in life, always cherish your lotus feet within their hearts, which are melted by love for you. Similarly, your self-controlled devotees, desiring to cross beyond the material kingdom of heaven to achieve opulence equal to yours, worship your lotus feet in the morning, at noon, and in the evening. Thus they may meditate upon your lordships in your quadruple expansion. May your lotus feet become the blazing fire that burns to ashes all our inauspicious desires for material sense gratification.
Right. So here, so in the previous verse, they discussed that how one can understand the Lord by purifying oneself, by developing great faith. And then here they're describing what will be the result of that. So, what will be the result of firmly being attached to the Lord's lotus feet? So, if one is firmly attached, tava angri, tava angri, ashubha ashaya. So, all this ashubha mentality or asha desires, all of that will be destroyed like Dhumaketu, just like the blazing fire burns everything. Similarly, all the inauspicious things within our hearts will be destroyed. Archita Savana Asha. So if one worships the Supreme Lord, 3 junctions of the day, so then it will be possible. Okay, and the purport is mentioned at the end of the first paragraph. The eternal, before that, the conditioned living entity can purify its existence simply by having firm faith in the transcendental glories of the personality of God. That's from the previous verse. What then can be said of the extraordinary good fortune of the demigods who were directly seeing Lord Krishna's lotus feet? Okay, so not just having faith, but they are directly seeing. Although we are presently afflicted by innumerable material desires, these desires are temporary. The eternal living entity is meant to experience a loving relationship with the supreme living entity, the personality of Godhead. And by rendering pure devotional service to the Lord, the heart of the living entity is completely satisfied. Next paragraph, the word sama vibhutaye, for achieving equal opulence, indicates that the pure devotees go back home, back to Godhead, and enjoy the infinite bliss of the spiritual worlds. And then there's a description about the spiritual world. And so they're quoting from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The word vyuhe in this verse indicates the 3 Purusha incarnations. If we can scientifically understand how Krishna expands himself to create the material world, we shall immediately experience that everything is the property of Krishna and thus become free from the desire to exploit it for our own selfish purposes. So if we understand that how everything is coming from Krishna, we understand everything belongs to Krishna, then one will not exploit. Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the master of everyone and the reservoir of all opulences. And one should remember his lotus feet in the morning, noon, evening. One who always remembers Krishna, never forgets him, will experience real blissful life beyond the pale shadow of material illusion. Okay, so a very appropriate verse in this connection. How one can develop full satisfaction. Of course, we already had a discussion on satisfaction the other day. But still, by devotional service, one can get full satisfaction. Famous verse? Okay, that's also there. That's, okay, it's like a test for oneself. Savai pumsam parodharmo yado bhakti radokshije aheituki apratihata yeyatma suprasidati. Satisfaction. But the satisfaction will come by performing what type of devotional service? Ahaituki apratihata. Now in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada writes a short but extremely profound statement. So go to the second paragraph of that purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, the relationship 126. 126. So he writes, the relation of the servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. Go down. Here. This relation of servant and the served, this relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. Many times devotees do ask this question, how can we develop intimate relations amongst devotees also? This is the answer. whether it is intimate relation with devotees or with the Supreme Lord, the answer is the same. Okay, somebody would like to explain this statement? Then we'll take a break. Yes, and then he says, one can realize it as devotional service progresses. So that short statement, it is actually the essence of devotional service. That short statement. But one can realize it as devotional service progresses. Yes, Shudhachitra. Mike.
By reading sadhana, but by serving our master according to his desires, then by his blessings we can understand the real, we'll get vijnana.
Okay, fine. Somebody else? Yes, Sakshit. Where's the other mic? This side.
That devotees want to know the relationship, want to know the Swarupa and try to go in different direction. But here Prabhupada mentions that one will not externally try something apart from what is given. One simply has to follow what the Guru has given in Parampara. And in due course of time, as one purified condition, he will understand what relationship is and the intimacy develops.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Arjuneshwar Prabhu, and then online. Online, they're able to see this?
No, Prabhuji, we are not able to see.
Okay. Okay, we're sharing. But of course, you may have Bhagavatam, you can always open.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhupada says that Bhoktaram Yagitapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surya Sarvabhutanam Gyatamam Santimrichiti. Krishna himself says. So means the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is this, means Krishna is a Bhokta and we have to arrange everything for his service. And this is our eternal relationship. So that is mentioned here. There is no other relationship. Means if one understands this, Prabhupada keeps on mentioning Jivara Sarupa Krishna Nitadas. So if one understands that thing, and as he progresses in devotional service, he realizes that relationship clearly, that I am his servant and I have to serve in Sarupa, like whatever Sarupa. So that is servant relationship, master servant.
Okay, good points. Okay, online may okay. Sachin Bhagwan. Then we'll take online.
In the case of Dehuti and Karda Muni and Narad Muni and Bhakti Vedantis, so there was no collision as materially, but they served completely. So the relation was given by the Bhakti Vedantas and the Karda Muni. So relation came by the mercy.
Okay. Okay, good point. Okay, online.
Prabhuji, just continuing with His Grace Sachinandan Bhagwan Prabhu's statement, where Devahuti actually served Kardam Muni so wonderfully. So just like a wife, when she serves the husband very much, with her heart and soul, then the husband will respond. And similarly with the Supreme Lord also and the spiritual master also, that when we serve them, then we can know their heart, we can know their mind, we can know the mood and mission also. But if we will not serve only with our wholehearted, there's some other material desires rakke, thoda kuch ye bhi rakke and all, then we won't be able to serve neither the spiritual master nor Krishna. And then that intimacy also will not be there. Then these revelations that are there, they will not come actually, Prabhuji.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, one more we'll take online.
Prabhu, the little on the edge, but Santa Tukaram's wife, having served Santa Tukaram, was completely dedicated. But she apparently, to look at, was a materialist, apparently. But Vithala came to remove the thorn in her feet. That is enough proof.
Okay. Okay, fine. So, okay, one last.
Not with Guru, here the context is with Krishna. As Prabhupada is writing, a living being sustenance, I'm just reading 3-4 statements above. A living being sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities with his eternal relationship with Supreme Lord Krishna. is the central pivot of the living beings, and he is the all attractive living entity or the eternal form amongst all other living beings or eternal forms. Each and every living being has his eternal form in spiritual existence, and Krishna is the eternal attraction for all of them. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is a part and parcel. This relation is one of the servant and the served. So it is directly with Krishna. Prabhupada is talking. The verse is also speaking about adhokshaje bhakti. It is the transcendental, and it is completely distinct from our experience in the material existence. And then this statement comes. This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses. So, why I said that is Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter is the most confidential knowledge, which is the same topic of pure unalloyed devotional service. So Krishna is saying there that ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mai te suchapya. So I am in them, they are in me. And Krishna is accepting patram pushpam phalam toyam. So it is direct acceptance. So by pure unalloyed devotional service, Krishna's personal presence is invoked. This is the most confidential knowledge which is being spoken here as per what I understand.
Okay, fine, thank you. The statement, this relation of servant and served is the most congenial form of intimacy. It is like a general principle. It's applicable in all types of relationships, actually. So, what to speak of Guru and disciple, what to speak of Jiva and Supreme Lord, the principle applies even to mundane relationships, even between an employer and employee, or between husband and wife, the same principle applies. Think about a relation of employer and employee in the material world. What do we generally find? What is the mood of the employer?
Master.
The mood of the employer is to pay less and get more work done. Correct? And what's the mood of the employee? Work less and get more pay. What is this called? Yes, exploitative mentality. So when there is this exploitative mentality, how is the relation? It's very superficial, basically. Yes, it's business deal and very superficial. There cannot be intimacy in that relation, because the employer also knows his mentality, the employee also knows his mentality. Both of them know each other's mentality. And so the employee, he knows, अरे ये व्यक्ति ये पगार क्यों दे रहा है? He knows. This fellow is simply trying to exploit me. So both are in an exploitative mentality. So the relation remains very superficial. So therefore we find in the modern world, so we find as soon as there is a small problem in that relation, what happens? Gone, finished. People keep changing how many jobs these days? And the same principle applies between husband and wife. Chetan Chandra Prabhu was telling that day in his class about that instance in USA, some devotee Mataji who was counseling married couples, and one couple came for divorce. What is the reason? They could not agree on the temperature of the AC. For that divorce. So what type of relation is that? So superficial, so superficial. So why? Same reason, exploitative mentality. So as soon as there is exploitative mentality, the other person immediately understands that exploitative mentality, and the relation remains very superficial. But as soon as the mentality changes from exploitative or selfish to selfless, what happens? Classic example of mother and child. So why the relation between mother and child is more deep? Selfless. So there is a mood of selfless service. So because there is a mood of selfless service, so therefore the relation is more deep. Therefore, it's very difficult for the relation between mother and child to break too extreme. At least the mother will continue to love the child in all circumstances. Selfless service. And so, correct. This old age home. Old age home, correct. Yes. So, yes, so the old age home. The old age home. So what love is there that they're sending parents to the old age home? So therefore, in such relationships, the intimacy is very shallow. And the same principle applies even amongst devotees. Even between guru and disciple, the same principle applies. So if disciple is thinking that guru is there only to take the sins, as the Christians think for Jesus Christ, Prabhupada says in his lecture, they think Jesus Christ has taken a contract to take all their sins. Then that's useless relation, too superficial. And if the guru is also thinking disciple is only to render some service and give money, so if that is the mentality, then the relation becomes very superficial. And now coming to the spiritual platform, within the spiritual worlds, if we see, in the 5 rasas from Dasya to Sakhya to Vatsalya, and then finally to Madhurya, what is increasing? What is increasing? Intimacy is increasing. And why the intimacy is increasing? Selflessness is increasing. Because selflessness is increasing, the intimacy is increasing. And it reaches the epitome in Madhurya. Yes, that's the meaning. Service is there, but the mood is what is important. So therefore we find, Prabhupada tells a simple, well-known story of Krishna having a headache. So the gopis were ready to go to hell. Not a tinge of selfishness. Not a tinge. That is why highest level of intimacy. It is not based on anything superficial. It is based on this attitude that the relationship develops, that the intimacy develops. And here we are seeing, we just saw in the concluding words of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we are seeing the intimacy between Srila Prabhupada and his spiritual master. Why? For that, we can see Srila Prabhupada's same mood as the gopis, which he revealed, which we did quote a few times. If you see Srila Prabhupada's writings in his diary on March 6th, 1966. We quoted this a few times, if somebody remembers. So you can see in the Vedas. On March 6, 1966, Srila Prabhupada has written in his diary. Where was he? March 6, 1966, where was he?
Jaladuta.
New York, right? New York, 1966. And Srila Prabhupada has written, today is the Adivas of Gaur Purnima, one day before Gaur. And today all my friends and God brothers are happily celebrating Gaur Purnima in Mayapur and Vrindavan. But I am alone here in New York. But I do not feel any inconvenience because I'm simply trying to fulfill the instructions of the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master. And for doing this, I'm even ready to go to hell. That's the mood. And therefore, even though Srila Prabhupada didn't meet his spiritual master physically many times, as he himself said 5 or 6 times, but the mood is of total selfless service. And because that was the mood, we can see, as Srila Prabhupada himself said, that whenever he met his spiritual master, the talks were very confidential and intimate. So that intimacy develops to the degree there is selfless service attitudes. That is how the intimacy develops. And so that is how we find in these relationships. And then we find the same principle between Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. And we know the well-known story, pastime of Yamuna Mataji and the hot rice on the train. She was also ready to give up her life for Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, we find such intimacy between Yamuna Mataji and Srila Prabhupada. Okay, that's the other pastime. I was going to tell it anyways. Yes, but you know Yamuna Mataji and the hot rice on the train. No, she was ready to jump off the train. Yes, and so what was the intimacy between Yamuna Mataji and Srila Prabhupada is shown in this pastime in the Kumbh Mela, 1971. So in the Kumbh Mela, during the Kumbh Mela of 1971, when Srila Prabhupada was there at Prayag, and Srila Prabhupada was lecturing every day on Ajamil pastime. And Yamuna Mataji, she was so eager to hear from Srila Prabhupada that she would be sitting right in front. And then one day, one sannyasi, he told Yamuna Mataji, see, in the West it's okay, but here in India, the women sit behind. Okay? Yamuna Mataji, she was so obedient. So the next day, she sits behind. And then, so the class got over. Sometime later during the day, Yamuna Mataji is passing in front of Srila Prabhupada's tent or room or whatever. And then Prabhupada calls her. And he says, Yamuna, why were you not present in class today? And when she hears that, she breaks down. She starts crying. Because to hear from Srila Prabhupada was a life and soul. And Prabhupada is asking this question, you don't like to hear from me anymore? And then she explains what happened. But of course, the pastime goes on and she understands the importance of Vani association. That's another point. But the point is, that was the intimacy between Yamuna Mataji and Srila Prabhupada. Why? Because of this attitude of selfless service. And yes, and then similar pastime is with Malti Mataji in Mayapur. You know that pastime, right? Where Srila Prabhupada said, yes, she is ready to slit her throat for me, and I am ready to do the same for her. That was the intimacy. And it all comes from that selfless service. Because Srila Prabhupada had that mood towards his spiritual master, therefore Srila Prabhupada's disciples also developed that same mood towards Srila Prabhupada. And then, because of that intimacy in relationship, the selfless service attitude, and that is why we are all sitting here today. And that is why ISKCON is expanding. Because of that selfless service attitude of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. And so, that's the principle Srila Prabhupada is talking about. That relation of servant and served is the most congenial form of intimacy. So to the degree there is that relation of servant and served, the service attitude, selfless service attitude, then there can be that actual intimacy. It is not based on anything physical, superficial, external. It is simply based on that selfless service attitude. And then people could be physically distant, but when that attitude is there, then it brings them most close and intimate, especially on the spiritual platform. So, such a deep statement. And this realization one can develop as one makes progress, because that's the ultimate goal. Of course, on the path of bhakti, that is the means and the end. But in the initial stages, we do it as a sadhana. But the goal is when one spontaneously develops that selfless service attitudes. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll take a break and go. Hare Krishna. Okay. So the reason why we discuss this whole thing, kya ho raha hai? So we were trying to discuss on the statement of the purport here to text 10. The eternal living entity is meant to experience a loving relationship with the supreme living entity, the personality of Godhead, and by rendering pure devotional service to the Lord, the heart of the living entity is completely satisfied. So then when one, to the degree one renders that selfless loving service, to that degree one can actually experience satisfaction. And so just one, to substantiate this, just one reference. So Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, 4th chapter, text 165. Yes, so this is the famous definition of prema and kama. But in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting from some revealed scripture, he doesn't say exactly. So he says, the revealed scripture describes pure love as follows. Sarvatha dvamsa rahitam satyapi dvamsa karane yad bhava bandhanam. What is that? You know, sa prema parikirtita. If there is ample reason for the dissolution of a conjugal relationship, and yet such a dissolution does not take place, such a relationship of intimate love is called pure. There's ample reason for a relationship to break, but still it does not break, then that's a pure loving relation. So that's the highest level of intimacy, or proportionally, we can understand the purity and intimacy of a relationship based upon this principle, that how it does not break in spite of there being so many reasons for the relation to break. Yes, Prahlad Prabhu, you had something.
I just want to know what is the sequence of like Sattvakam, which was Sattva, pure transcendence. The last verse it was in. Then Shraddha, and over here selfless service. So is there any flow of that? First Shraddha should come, then selfless service, then Sattva, pure, or how? Or it is first we go in Sattva, then Shraddha develops, and then the selfless service. Is there any flow? I just have.
So basically, of course, ultimately the progression is in terms of the 9 stages of devotional service, beginning with Adav Shraddha. And then after Shraddha, there is Sadhusang, then there's Bhajan Kriya. So when there is Bhajan Kriya, then what's happening? Rajas and Tamas is reducing, Sattva increases. Now, as Sattva increases, then obviously the selfishness reduces, because selfishness is due to what? Rajas and Tamas. Because of Rajas and Tamas, there is selfishness. Then as Rajas and Tamas reduce, then selfishness also reduces, selflessness increases. So that's how it progresses more. Huh? What's that? Right. Yes, somebody else also told me, correct. That is from Ujjwal Nilmani. That's correct. Yes.
One doubt, when we see some mismanagement and devotees are dissatisfied in other temples, so when we go to...
Why only in other temples? Okay, go ahead, any guess.
Like I felt very serious issues were happening, and devotees were expressing their concerns and everything. So I was feeling what to do. Authorities are also were not much. Practically no Bhagavatam class. No.
That's the problem. That is the root cause of the problem.
And leader himself will not come for morning program.
See.
Not only that, one temple, 6 people died while going for service in accident, and their families were not being received properly, and they were sharing their problems and everything. Such a those who are sincerely serving there, and other devotees are also facing problems like that. So when we hear in ISKCON happening like that, so what we can do, like prayers and everything, and we feel so unhappy within.
That's true. The solution is what we are reading here in the Bhagavatam. This is the solution. There's no other solution. This is science. So, unless one comes to this platform of practicing pure devotional service, there cannot be satisfaction. Whether it is seniors or juniors or managers or this one or that one, it does not matter. If they don't practice this type of devotional service, at least if they're not trying to practice this type of devotional service, trying to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and the Guru, then there cannot be satisfaction. So, therefore, Srila Prabhupada emphasized every day 2 classes. That is why he emphasized. Then at least when people read all this and try to understand, then they will try to make some change in their life. So you're saying there's no Bhagavatam class only, then what they are hearing, what they are reading, what they'll understand. So then everything remains on a very superficial mechanical platform. Then on that platform, what progress can take place? Nothing can take place. So therefore, the only thing we can do is, if we have any influence, the only thing we can request them is to try to follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions. That's all what we can do. We can't force anyone. That is for their own benefit. If they follow, they will benefit. If they don't follow, they are losers. That's all. What else can we do?
Temple only.
Well, maybe you're very much surprised. I am not surprised, because there is nothing new about these things. If you see the history of ISKCON, there have been much more terrible things happen. What you are speaking is something very mild. But what to do? This is material world. Spiritual society in material world is not so easy. Still so many anarthas are there. People are trying to serve with all their anarthas. So, and the unfortunate thing is, they're not even making a sincere attempt to get rid of the anarthas. That is the problem. So everything is there in the books. If one doesn't follow, what can be done? We can't force anyone. Right? So then they have to face the consequences. That's all. We can't do anything more. Chicken. But don't worry. Krishna has his own ways and means of doing things. Srila Prabhupada has his own ways and means. And they will do the needful at the right time. That confidence we should have. We should never think that Prabhupada is sleeping, Mahaprabhu is sleeping, Krishna is sleeping, or they are enjoying in the spiritual world. No. They are very much wide awake. They know everything what's happening. That's what we read, no? We read those concluding words. The spiritual master is always, yes, he's always seeing, he's always watching, he's always guiding. He's watching. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur is watching. Prabhupada is watching. The entire parampara is watching. They're watching. We should not think this is a mistake sometimes devotees make. Devotees think, all these things are happening in ISKCON. Why it is happening? So maybe there's something wrong in ISKCON, maybe something wrong in the process, maybe we should go somewhere else. There's a mistake. Everyone has their free will. Krishna is watching, the acharyas are watching. They will do the needful 100%. This is the history of ISKCON. There have been problems, but there have been wonderful rectifications of the problems also in the past. So therefore, I should do my part nicely and make my progress. And whatever is possible within my capacity, that much I should do. If we start worrying about the whole world, then it is like trying to take the position of God, trying to manage everything. So we should understand. That's why we read that, no? There is nothing lamentable in the Lord's creation. Those who create disturbance, what will happen? What will happen? They themselves will be disturbed. So Krishna is watching everything. We have to do our part. That's all. Take. Correct. Okay, 11th verse. Yaschintyate prayatapani biradhvaragnav traya nirukta vidhinesha havirgrihitva adhyatma yoga utayogi biratma mayam jigyasubhi parama bhagavate parishtaha. Please read.
Those about to offer oblations into the fire of sacrifice in accordance with the Rig, Yajur, and Sam Vedas meditate on your lotus feet. Similarly, the practitioners of transcendental yoga meditate upon your lotus feet, hoping for knowledge about your divine mystic potency. And the most elevated pure devotees perfectly worship your lotus feet, desiring to cross beyond your illusory potency.
Okay, so those who are performing sacrifices, ultimately they're doing that for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, for his satisfaction, and they're hoping for knowledge about your divine mystic potency. So one is aspiring to get transcendental knowledge, and by getting that transcendental knowledge, then one perfectly worships the Lord's lotus feet, and the result of that is one can cross beyond the illusory potency. So the purport says, the mystic yogis, Adhyatma Yoga, Uta Yogi, are eager to acquire knowledge of the Lord's mystic potencies, whereas the pure devotees, Param Bhagavata, are eager to cross beyond the kingdom of illusion so that they can serve Lord Krishna's lotus feet in pure, loving ecstasy. In any case, everyone is interested in the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The scientists are also fascinated by the external material potency. Okay, but then that's of no use. So the last paragraph, the demigods are glorifying the Lord's lotus feet because they are personally very eager to be purified by contact with those feet. Tavangri asmakam ashubhashaya dhumaketusya. This is previous verse, right? Yes, that is previous verse. When a sincere devotee eagerly desires to attain the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, the Lord brings him to his personal abode, just as the demigods were brought to Dwarka by Lord Krishna's arrangements. Okay, text 12. This is an interesting one. Paryushtaya tava vibho vanamalayeyam samspardhini bhagavati pratipatni vachri yasu pranitam amuyarhanam adadanno bhuyat sadhangrir ashubha shayadhuma ketu. Again the word came, dhuma ketu.
Hare Krishna. O Almighty Lord, you are so kind to your servant that you have accepted the withered flower garland that we have placed on your chest. Since the goddess of fortune makes her abode on your transcendental chest, she will undoubtedly become agitated, like a jealous co-wife, upon seeing her offering also dwelling there. Yet you are so merciful that you neglect your eternal consort Lakshmi and accept our offering as most excellent worship. O merciful Lord, may your lotus feet always act as a blazing fire to consume the inauspicious desire within our heart.
What does this remind you of? Yes, Prithu Maharaj and his apparent competition with Lakshmi. So similar thing here also. So they're saying that, yes, we will offer you withered garland, dried up garlands, but you're so merciful, you will accept, even though Lakshmi may become agitated and angry. But anyway, so in the purport, they're nicely explaining. First of all, it begins with Patram Pushpam Phalam. Lord Krishna gratefully and happily accepts even the most meager offering from his loving devotee. Lord Krishna is conquered by the love of his pure devotees, just as a father is easily conquered by the most insignificant gift offered by his loving child. Okay. Now, at the end of the last sentence of the first paragraph, such devotional enthusiasm is motivated by love of Godhead and is devoid of any selfish expectation. Okay, so the more there is love, the more there's enthusiasm to serve. The next paragraph. The Lord is so kind that he neglects his own eternal consort Lakshmi and gives preference to his humble devotee, just as a man will neglect the loving embrace of his wife when his affectionate child approaches him with a gift. Srila Jiva Goswami has pointed out that any garland worn by the Lord cannot be faded because all of the Lord's personal paraphernalia is completely transcendental and spiritually opulent. Similarly, there's no possibility that mundane jealousy could appear in the character of the goddess of fortune, who is as transcendental as Lord Krishna himself. Therefore, the statements of the demigods are to be understood as humorous words inspired by intense love of Godhead. The demigods enjoy the protection of Lakshmi and ultimately of the Supreme Personality of God Krishna, and due to their confidence in their loving relationship with the Lord and his consort, they feel free to speak in a joking way. Okay, so they're speaking in a slightly joking way. See, they are devatas. Why they'll offer withered garland? Why they have to offer dried up garland? They're living in Swargaloka with so much of opulence and divine celestial flowers. So why they have to offer dried up garland? So therefore, it's in a sort of joking mood that they are speaking this. But the mood is that the Lord is very merciful, and therefore he will accept our offering, even though Lakshmi may be sort of upset. So that is the mood in which they are offering the prayer. In the Swarga, maybe. But in any case, they have so much opulence, so there's no question of dried up. Okay, so 13th verse. Ketus trivikramayutas tripatat patako yaste bhayakaro suradeva chambo swargaya sadhushu kaleshu itaraya bhuman Padha punatu bhagavan bhajatamaghamna.
O omnipotent Lord, in your incarnation as Trivikrama, you raise your leg like a flagpole to break the sail of the universe, allowing the holy Ganga to flow down like a banner of victory in the three branches throughout the three planetary system. By three mighty steps of your lotus feet, your lordship captured Bali Maharaj, along with his universal kingdom. Your lotus feet inspired fear in the demons by driving them down to hell, and fearlessness among your devotees by elevating them to the perfection of heavenly life. We are sincerely trying to worship you, our Lord. Therefore, may your lotus feet kindly free us from all of our sinful reaction.
So they are substantiating what they are spoken in the previous verse. So in the previous verse, they said that the Lord is very merciful, he will take our side. And so to show that, they give an example that how the Lord takes the side of the Devatas, and that is why he came as Vamandev, to side with the Devatas and to give them back their heavenly kingdom. So therefore, they're given an example to substantiate the Siddhanta which they spoke in the previous verse. And so therefore, they're saying, yes, so therefore we're worshipping lotus feet, and may you purify us. Punatu. Bhuman Padha Punatu Bhagavan Bhajatam Agham Naha. So please purify us of all these agham, the sins. Okay, 14. Nasyo tagavai vayasya vashe bhavanti brahmadayastanu brito miturardhyamanaha kalasya te prakriti purushayo parasya Shamnastanotu charana purushottamasya.
You are the supreme personality of Godhead, the transcendental entity who is superior to both material nature and the enjoyer of nature. May your lotus feet bestow transcendental pleasure upon us. All of the great demigods, beginning with Brahma, are embodied living entities, struggling painfully with one another under the strict control of your time factor. They are just like the bulls dragged by the ropes tied through their pierced noses.
This is standard example. So many places this has come. The example of the bulls being dragged by the ropes. So that's how everyone is controlled. From the smallest living entity to Brahma, everyone is controlled by the Supreme Lord. Yeah, so many places it comes. So even in fifth canto, Privrat, when Brahmaji is coming to convince Privrat, he says, yes, this is plan of the Supreme Lord. Everyone is forced to follow. So at the end of the first paragraph, this does not contradict the fact of the living entity's free will. So even though the Lord is controlling, but still the Jiva's free will always remains. Since the Lord awards victory and defeat according to the merit of the living entities. In a legal battle, neither the prosecution nor the defense can act independently of the legal system presided over by the authorized judge. Victory and defeat in the court are awarded by the judge, but the judge is acting according to the laws which do not favor or discriminate against either side. So yes, so ultimately everyone is going to get the reaction of whatever they're doing, and the free will of the jiva always remains. Similarly, the personality of Godhead is awarding us the results of our previous activities. In order to discredit God, materialists frequently give the argument that oftentimes innocent people suffer, whereas impious rogues enjoy life unimpeded. Why do bad things happen to good people? So that is the point. So the fact is, however, that personality of Godhead is not a fool, as are the materialistic persons who place such arguments. The Lord can see our many previous lives. This is an important point. Therefore, he may allow one to enjoy or suffer in this life, not only as a result of one's present activities, but also as a result of one's previous activities. For example, by working very hard, a man may accumulate a fortune. If such a newly rich man then gives up his work and takes to a degenerate life, his fortune does not immediately disappear. On the other hand, one who is destined to become rich may now be working very hard with discipline and austerity and yet be without spending money. So, a superficial observer might well be confused upon seeing the moral, hardworking man without funds and the degenerate, lazy man in possession of riches. Similarly, a materialistic fool without knowledge of past, present, and future is unable to understand the perfect justice of the personality of Godhead. So that's what we were discussing. There cannot be any mistakes that the Supreme Lord is committing. Everything is perfect. Only thing is we cannot understand because we are seeing a very small, tiny fraction of time. How much do we know about our lives or others' lives? Such a short fraction of time. But the Supreme Lord is saying, since innumerable lifetimes. And so therefore, sometimes we may think, oh, apparently it appears as if there's injustice. Why this person he's so sinful, he's doing wrong things, still he's enjoying. Somebody else is nice person, but still he's suffering. So we cannot understand all these things. But one thing we have to be convinced is perfect justice of the personality of God. We have to everything is perfect. That we have to be convinced of. If we're convinced of that, then there is nothing to lament. Then there's nothing to be bewildered. Everything is perfect. Of course, that should not make us hard-hearted. Some other devotee is suffering or something. We should not say, you deserve this anyways. No, we should definitely try to help in whatever way possible and show compassion. But at the same time, we know that we are limited and ultimately the Lord is orchestrating everything. Fifth,
Here, because when in the wrestling arena, when Krishna and Balaram are fighting with Chanur and Mushtik, the ladies of Dwarka are telling that if something is happening in front of you, then there is certain responsibility also. So in ISKCON, we see so many things happening. So
Just now you were asking.
can you draw the line where we are responsible and we have to do something and just leave it in front of you? Something is happening, just leave it. Krishna has sanctioned Haribol. So can you please help?
Therefore, in every situation, one needs to know what is dharma, what is duty. So in every situation, I need to understand what is my duty in this situation. And when we practice the dharma properly, which is according to Shastra, then one gets the proper result, or one either benefits or loses based upon how one is practicing the dharma. So that is what is, so everyone has to understand what is my dharma. So okay, I think so I told this past time before also, of Srila Prabhupada and the coconut leaves. Huh? How many have heard that? Prabhupada was on the terrace of his apartment in Juhu, and so there were many coconut trees in the Juhu property, and they're given for contracts. So some person would come and take the coconuts and sell them and give some money. So then one day Srila Prabhupada is on the terrace and he's seeing the man is taking the coconuts, and then Srila Prabhupada calls the manager of the temple, whoever, I don't know, and he calls and says, "What's happening? There are so many things happening here. Nobody sees." So the devotee is bewildered. He said, "Srila Prabhupada, but what's happening? Can't you see what's happening?" Still he can't understand. Then Srila Prabhupada says, "Just see that man. Along with the coconuts, he is taking the coconut leaves." Because coconut leaves also are valuable, na? वो झाड़ू बनाते हैं, झाड़ू, हाँ टोक बहुत बहुत कुछ, हाँ आजकल पता नहीं, लेकिन एनी केस आज सब प्लास्टिक हो गया. So, but in any case, the point is that how Srila Prabhupada was so attentive even to that. Why? Duty. He's founder Acharya, so he has to be attentive to everything. So similarly, so each one has to know what is duty. So therefore, if somebody is temple president and somebody is stealing money, the temple president cannot say, "Oh, Krishna is allowing it." No, he has to do his duty. So similarly, every one of us has to know what is my duty in this situation. So if something wrong is happening in front of me and I'm not responsible, but then if it is going to affect the whole community of devotees, then at least I need to report it to the concerned authority, right? So that others are safeguarded, so that others don't face some harm. So therefore, so I have to know what is my duty in that situation. And if I'm not clear as to what is my duty, then I should clarify from some seniors as to what is my duty and act accordingly. But that is what Shastra is, that is focusing on dharma. This is what is dharma. What is my duty? That should be very clear. And that's very important also. Otherwise, if we don't understand that clearly, then we may mistake something which is duty to be not duty and something which is not duty to be duty. Then we'll get bewildered and then we will do the wrong things.
To ask, like Bhaktivedanta students, we are trying to learn. Now in Bhagavatam class, it's something you hear. So what is our duty here?
So that we already discussed. You know that already. So in general also same thing. So
Siddhanta or something we feel that it is not proper, though what we should be doing.
So therefore, the first thing is that there is every possibility that my perception also could be wrong. Na? My perception, my understanding also could be wrong. So therefore, now the one important consideration is, as we were discussing, etiquette. That is one important consideration. So therefore, if somebody very senior is giving class, then it goes beyond the proper etiquette to at least yes, to comment or ask something which could sort of be against what the person has said, which could sort of put down the person. So that would not be the proper etiquette. So in that case, maybe privately we can clarify. So if the speaker is sort of on an equal platform and he has spoken something which is too deviant, which may confuse others, and there is nobody else to clarify, then yes, then one can seek a clarification. One can seek a clarification. And if something is doubtful, I myself am doubtful what this person has spoken, whether it's correct or wrong, then we better to go to some seniors and then seek clarification from them. So that is how the maryada always has to be maintained. Yes, etiquette and duty, that's correct. So therefore both have to be properly understood. So even if it's a duty, but if it is not etiquette, then better to leave it to somebody else who can do it. Okay. Text 15. Asya siheturudaya sthiti samyamanam avyakta jiva mahatam apikala soyam trinabhirakila pachaye pravritta kalo ghabiraraya uttama purushastvam.
You are the cause of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of this universe. As time, you regulate the subtle and manifest states of material nature and control every living being. As the threefold wheel of time, you diminish all things by your imperceptible actions. And thus you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So now, beginning from the last verse, they are establishing the supremacy of the Lord. So in the previous verse, they spoke about how the Supreme Lord is controlling everyone from Brahma to the smallest living entity. Now here again, they are glorifying him as the cause of Udaya, Sthiti, Samyamanam, creation, maintenance, annihilation. And as time, Kalo, Gabiraraya, Uttama, Purushastvam. So as Kala, they are as Kala, the Supreme Lord is creating all these various changes. Trinabhi akhila apachaye pravritta kalaha. So as threefold wheel of time, you diminish all things by imperceptible actions, and thus you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they're giving an example, a nice example. One example they're giving is about the hair and the fingernails. So no one can feel how hair, fingernails are growing, but by the effect of time, all this is taking place. Moment to moment, we may not experience that. Another example they're giving is similarly, house gradually decays until it is demolished. From moment to moment, we cannot perceive exactly how this is happening, but in the course of longer intervals of time, we can actually see the deterioration of the house. In other words, when I experience the results or manifestations of aging and deterioration, but as it is taking place, the process itself is imperceptible. This is the wonderful potency of the Supreme Personality of God in this form of time. Of course, Srila Prabhupada also gives the example of our own bodies. The body is also changing every moment, but it is imperceptible to us. But after some time, then it becomes perceptible. We can understand. Okay, now hair have become gray, this has to. But as the change is taking place, we don't understand. 16. Tvatta puman samadhigamya yayasya viryam datte mahantam eva garbham amoga virya soyam tayanugata atmana andakosham hemam sasarja bahiravarane rupetam.
My dear Lord, the original Purusha avatar Mahavishnu acquires his creative potency from you. Thus, with infallible energy, he impregnates material nature, producing the Mahat Tattva. Then the Mahat Tattva, the amalgamated material energy, endowed with the potency of the Lord, produces from itself the primeval golden egg of the universe, which is covered by various layers of material elements.
Yes. So, as in the purport, it said in the previous verses, the supremacy of the personality of God has been established in relation to the living entity and material nature. So, in this verse, it is clearly stated. So, the supremacy is further being established that how Lord Krishna is the source of even Mahavishnu and all the various Purusha avatars. So, which is the verse from the Brahma Samhita, which states how even Mahavishnu is coming from Krishna. Somebody is saying something. Bolo. यस्यैकनिश्वसकालमथावलम्ब्य जीवन्ति लोमविलजा जगदण्डनाथा विष्णुर्महान् स इह यस्य कलाविशेषो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. So this is describing Mahavishnu from whose pores all the various universes are coming, but such Mahavishnu is only Kala. Is only Kala of Govinda, is simply an expansion of an expansion. So the same point is mentioned here. Mahavishnu acquires his creative potency from Lord Krishna. It would therefore be foolish to surmise that Lord Krishna is an expansion of Vishnu. In this regard, the opinion of the demigods said by Brahma can be taken as final. 17. तत्तष्टुषश्च जगतश्च भवानधीशो यन्माययोक्तगुणविक्रियोपनीतान् अर्थाञ्जुषन्नपि ऋषिकपत्तेन लिप्तो येऽन्यस्वतः परिहृतादपि बिभ्यति स्म.
O Lord, you are the supreme creator of this universe and the ultimate controller of all moving and non-moving living entities. You are Rishikesh, the supreme controller of all sensory activity, and thus you never become contaminated or entangled in the course of your supervision of the infinite sensory activities within the material creation. On the other hand, other living entities, even yogis and philosophers, are disturbed and frightened simply by remembering the material objects that they have supposedly renounced in their pursuit of enlightenment.
So here they're establishing that how the Supreme Lord, even though he is the creator, is creating all these material things, is creating the universe, but still the Supreme Lord is never entangled, he's never affected by all this material creation. So the Supreme Lord is never affected by Maya, even though he has created everything of this material world. Analogy? Okay, one is spider and web, other? No, not sky and yes, the cloud and sunlight. So just like cloud is created by sun, but the cloud cannot cover the sun, right? So that is the analogy. So, Krishna gives the example of the sky and the wind. That is to show that how the Supreme Lord is in control, but is not affected. That is also correct. Yes. Yes, that's also correct. Yes. So all these various analogies are there. So the same principle they're saying here also, that how he's creating everything, but he's never affected. But on the other hand, yogis and jnanis and these people, they get disturbed, and therefore they want to renounce everything that's material. So that is called as, yes, Falgu Vairagya. So that is the point they're making, because they think that, okay, they'll become entangled by all these things. So they don't understand ultimately everything belongs to the Lord. So therefore there's nothing material in that sense. Okay, 18. Smaya Baloka Lavadarshita Bhavahari Brumandala Prahita Saurata Mantra Shaundai Patnyastu Shodasha Sahasramananga Baner Yasyendriyam Vimatitum Karane Navibhya.
My Lord, you are living within 16,000 exquisitely beautiful aristocratic wives. By their irresistible coy and smiling glances, and by their lovely arching eyebrows, they send you messages of eager conjugal love. But they are completely unable to disturb the mind and senses of your lordship.
Okay, so they're saying that just like in the previous verses, they said that how the Lord is never affected by the material energy. Now they're describing how he's not affected even by the spiritual energy, because he always remains self-satisfied. So therefore, even the queens cannot disturb him. And of course, this is elaborately described where? First canto. First canto in when Krishna leaves Hastinapur and comes back to Dwarka. So in that chapter, there's a whole description about the queens and their position and Krishna's reciprocation with the queens. So, and the purport they're nicely describing. In the previous verse, it was clearly stated that no material object can attract the senses of the Lord. Now, in this verse, it is demonstrated the Lord has no desire to enjoy even spiritual sense gratification. Krishna is complete in himself. He is the reservoir of all pleasure, and he does not lust after anything material or spiritual. And then they're raising an argument about Satyabhama. So then why did the Lord steal Parijat for Satyabhama? As if he's a henpecked husband. Yes, that is to reciprocate love with his devotees. So therefore, after that, they say, Krishna may be conquered by our intense love for him, and thus pure devotees can conquer the Lord. And that is then they're giving the example of the gopis. So same thing. So it's not that the Lord was attached to the gopis. The Lord left the gopis also, and he went to Mathura from Vrindavan. So he's neither attached to the gopis, neither is attached to the queens, but he only reciprocates with their love. And that's what towards the end he says. He reciprocates spiritual loving affairs with the gopis and queens simply for their sake. Only fools think that Lord Krishna would be attracted by the perverted, illusory pleasures to which we poor conditioned souls are so blindly attached. Therefore, everyone should recognize the supreme transcendental position of the personality of Godhead and surrender to him. That is the clear implication of this statement by the demigods. Okay, and the last of the prayers of the Devatas, 19th verse. Vibhyastavaamritakadodavaha padavanej sarita shamalani hantum anushravam shrutibirangrijamanga sanges tirtadvayam shuchishadasta upashprishanti.
The nectar bearing rivers of discussions about you, and also the holy rivers generated from the bathing of your lotus feet, are able to destroy all contamination within the three worlds. Those who are striving for purification associate with the holy narrations of your glories by hearing them with their ears, and they associate with holy rivers flowing from your lotus feet by physically bathing in them.
Okay, so after establishing the supremacy of the Lord and how he is not attached to anything material or spiritual, then finally they're saying how we can purify ourselves by associating with such a supreme Lord. So we can purify ourselves. Here they're saying in two ways. How? One is tavamrita katodha kata. So by the amrita, the nectarian katha about the Lord, and the second way is padavane jasarita, the rivers that come from the lotus feet of the Lord. So in these two ways, one can purify oneself. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, Anushravam Guror Ucharanam Anushruyante. One should hear about Krishna by hearing from the spiritual master. The bona fide spiritual master describes the pastimes, potencies, and incarnations of the personality of Godhead to his disciple. If the spiritual master is bona fide, and if the disciple is sincere and obedient, then the communication between guru and disciple is just like nectar, both for the guru and the disciple. So this point comes again and again in the Bhagavatam, that how both the speaker and the hearer both need to be qualified then there can be proper transmission of the transcendental message. So ordinary persons cannot even imagine the special pleasure experienced by the devotees of the Lord. Such nectarian speaking and hearing destroys all contamination within the heart of a conditioned soul, the primary contamination being the desire to live without serving Krishna. So therefore, as hearers, then we should have the proper attitude. So in the first canto, first chapter, second verse purport. Okay, the verse itself is saying, okay, what is the verse? We all know the verse. Dharma projita kaitava atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavatam Mahamuni Krite Kim va parer Ishvara Sadhya Hridaya Avarudyate. So what does Avarudyate mean? What does mean Avarudyate? Yes, fixed up. In the word-to-word Prabhupada says, becomes compact. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, becomes compact. And on the lecture on the verse, Prabhupada says, the Supreme Lord becomes locked up within the heart. Who can lock up Supreme Lord? But Supreme Lord is Swarat. Who can lock him up? The Supreme Lord agrees to become locked up in the heart of a devotee. Which type of devotee? Two qualifications. What? Kritibi and Shushrushibi. What is mean of Kritibi? Yes, one who has spiritual piety, spiritual pious activities, spiritual punya. And the other is what? Shushrushubi. What is the meaning of Shushrushubi? Yes, Prabhupada translates it as culture. So what is this culture? Yes, the culture of hearing. And within this culture of hearing, in the purports, Prabhupada gives 5 points within this culture of hearing. What are the 5 points? First is submissive. Second is no challenging attitude. Third is from bona fide source. Fourth is eager to hear. And the fifth one is hearing with the right motive. So these are the 5 points under culture of hearing. Yes, in that paragraph. Submissive, no challenging attitude, proper guidance, anxious to hear, and sincerely hear. Hear from the right source. So all this fall under the culture of hearing. So when one has those 2 qualifications, Kritibi and Shushrushubi, then the result will be what? The Lord will become compacted or locked up. That means one will get realization of the Lord when one has these qualifications. So the same points are being said over here also. So then the transcendental message will appear to be like nectar. Then one will get the full benefit of that hearing. And then the contamination will be removed. Then one can experience special pleasure. The other nectar is Channamrit, the water that bathes the Lord's lotus feet. So then they're describing about Vamandev, and then Yamuna and Ganga, they're all Channamrit. And then they're describing how every morning in ISKCON temples also there's Channamrit. And the next paragraph, in all these ways one can purify his heart and relish spiritual bliss. When one is fixed on the platform of spiritual bliss, then one does not take another birth in the material world. In this verse, the word Shuchi Shada is significant. One must engage in the purified activities of Krishna consciousness. One must learn to serve the Lord from the bona fide spiritual master whose instructions one should accept without speculation. Those who are attached to the phantasmagoria of this world sometimes concoct their own whimsical concepts of God, but only from the bona fide spiritual master can we get perfect and pure knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and devotional service to Him. Such knowledge may be found in all the books of His divine grace. A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Okay, so those are the prayers of the Devatas which they offer to the Supreme Lord when they came to Dwaraka. And then after that, they have a request and then the Lord speaks something. Okay, fine. So we'll continue tomorrow and then we will go on to the 7th chapter. Hare. Hopefully, by your grace, yes, surely we will not be able to complete beyond 7th. 7th we'll definitely try to complete. 74 verses. Yeah, 6 is, yeah, but the rest of the chapter is, there's not many purports and rest is like a pastime. So rest of the 6th chapter will go fast because we already know this pastime of the Yadus going to Prabhash and all that. So the rest of the 6th chapter will go fast. Then we'll start 7th chapter. Okay? Hare Krishna.